Welcome to Buckets in a very special episode. This is our episode number 600 of Buckets. I'm your host, Brandon Anderson, here today with Jim Turvey for a very special 600th episode celebration. Thank you to all of you, our listeners. 600 episodes, that is a lot of Brandon blabbing on about something or other. It's a lot of Matt Moore in your life. It's an increasing amount of Jim Turvey and others, our whole crew at Buckets here. You guys have listened. You have made this a thing. 600 episodes is awesome. We're excited for 600 more. Stay tuned to the end of this podcast because they let me be in charge of the 600th episode. So we came up with a little 600 themed trivia. Very briefly, we'll do at the end of the podcast. And a chance for you at home listening to win a prize. There's a little trivia that we save for you, and you can follow us on Twitter, hit us there with your answers, and we'll give out some Action Network swag to whoever gets it fastest or closest. So that's what's coming. Big episode in general because, man, it was a night of basketball Monday night last night. The Nuggets, the defending champions, are down 0-2 to the Timberwolves. Knicks Pacers was a great start off in game one. We'll get to all of that here on Buckets. As always, sponsored by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. At the top, just a quick announcement for you. Of course, Buckets comes to you every weekday. We're hitting you I think it was like 3 episodes yesterday. There's a couple episodes today. We got the series previews. We got all sorts of stuff coming. So be sure to watch there. And don't forget our spinoff Buckets. And Jim, I'm going to let you tell us about WNBA Buckets.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, if you aren't subscribed yet and you're a basketball fan of any sort, you have to be subscribed to WNBA Buckets, hosted by Maria Marino, outstanding host. Incredibly, we did the Eastern and Western Conference previews. We dropped one last week, one this week. It's really fun with Daniel Mattia as well. The three of us, I think there's good banter, but also there's like great depth of knowledge among all three of us. We're doing a Caitlin Clark specific episode because the books are posting more bets for Caitlin Clark than they've posted for anyone ever in the WNBA before. So we have a whole episode devoted to her, and we'll be doing 2 a week throughout the season. So definitely get over there and subscribe. It's a great league and a great league to bet on as well. So definitely check that out.
Awesome. And what are the episodes that are up so far if we're listening?
Yeah, the first was Western Conference preview. The most recent was Eastern Conference preview. Those are both out already.
All right, and we are about just over a week out from the start of the regular season, yeah?
That is correct. It starts a week from yesterday.
All right. I already set the season pass on the DVR. Indiana Fever. I got the fever. I'm ready. I'm ready for some WNBA Buckets. It's a softer market, too. It is a much softer market than NBA. So, look, even if you don't think that you like WNBA, I know you like making money. So it's a good Buckets to listen to, good league to follow, and just it's a lot of fun. So take a listen over there. All right, let's start out with our best bets at the top, and then we're going to go to Timberwolves Nuggets because somehow, despite that we had an awesome Knicks Pacers game, starting out a classic-looking Eastern Conference semifinal, it got showed up a little bit later in the night by I think an even bigger topic. So let's hit our best bets. Just what are they? And then we will circle back when we get to the game. Jim Turvey, for Wednesday night, Game 2, Knicks Pacers. What are your best bets?
Yeah, we'll talk through this in a little bit in depth. I have one best bet and 2 leans because the market seems pretty sharp right now. So I'm going to give my very best bet right now. It's simple. It's Isaiah Hartenstein over 8.5 rebounds.
All right. Yeah, I'm not on a spread or total here either. We will get to why on that later. I'm keeping it simple. I'm going with a tried and true formula. Give me Josh Hart to lead the game in the rebounds, minus 135. My man Josh Hart just got another rebound just hearing me mention his name right now. So I like that one. And just because it is episode 600 after all, I thought about this idea. I looked at it, and then the odds came out to plus 602. I'm calling it a plus 600 bet, Jim. It is an Indiana Pacers kind of 3-way guard play. Give me Halliburton under on the points, TJ McConnell and Nembhard over on the points. Those 3 together is pretty much exactly plus 600. How can you not take that on the 600th episode of Buckets?
I love that.
Those are the bets. All right. We'll get back to that. Timberwolves 2, Nuggets 0. My Minnesota Timberwolves.
No, no,
Your
no, no, no,
Minnesota
no,
Timberwolves.
no, no, no.
Joe
You
Rivera's Minnesota Timberwolves. I know.
yes, there we go.
I don't get the credit for them. Joe is dancing on the entire Slack as he should be. All of us right now with his Wolves Knicks finals pick that is just like looking incredible. Today of all days, like this might be the peak. Like this, it's possible this is the very best the ticket will ever look again. But for right now, it is possible this is the Nuggets looking about as worse as they can. I think, Jim, the Nuggets actually also knew it was our 600th episode. They did a tribute last night. They tried to lose by 600. That's what it felt like watching that game. It was one of the most dominant, at least first half performances on a big stage that I can recall. Halftime score 61-35. The Denver Nuggets have 35 at the half. And honestly, that felt high. They had a 76 offensive rating, 37% effective field goal percentage. Both of those are in the 0th percentile. They had a 24% turnover rate. They turned it over 1 out of every 4 possessions in the first half. And again, that feels low too. It felt like they were just like constantly giving the ball away. I bet Jamal Murray to lead the series in assists. I think he was leading the series in assisting to Minnesota, just giving them the ball as much as they could. That's in the 1st percentile. Timberwolves win by 26 is the 2nd biggest win in franchise history in the playoffs. Domination, 52-34 points in the paint, 37-23 on the bench. That was bigger until late in the game. Justin Holiday and others. 19-2 points off of turnovers. That one I think is very telling. 14-8 on the second chance. Absolute throttling. Like this is a pull up the thesaurus and look up words for beatdowns sort of game. What did you see in this one last night?
Yeah, I mean, you have a question coming up here about apportionment of blame. And I think that is an interesting place to start because just framing it as blame implies that there is a little that both of us may be skewed towards the Denver side of things. But I think we should, rightfully focus on the Minnesota side of things first, because in the series preview, the consensus here among you, me, and Joe, we were all aboard the Timberwolves bandwagon, and that's one that throughout the season I was high. I maintained I was high on Denver, and they definitely were the team that I was consistently going back to. But the reason we didn't want to hammer their futures during the regular season, we'd always say, throw that boost bet on there, throw the boost bet, but don't really bet into this market because it was such a short number. And there are things that come around by the postseason where things change. And I don't know if this team isn't perfectly healthy. I mean, Murray definitely is not. KCP is not. Reggie Jackson's not. The one that jumps out to me is Jokic. Like, are we going to get the Woj report after this that he's not healthy? Because if he is fully healthy, this is like it's got to be held against him as a pretty poor performance. The turnovers, he just looks sloppy. I personally am I'm a big Jokic guy. I think there's probably something up, but if not, it's really not a good look that he's coming against maybe the best opponent he's faced in the postseason. Saw some chatter yesterday about who has Denver really beat in the postseason, starting to rear its head. We love to do that whenever a team looks no longer invincible. But I am the Jokic of it is the most intriguing to me. From is he fully healthy? And if he is, I know Matt Moore is of the mind of his comments after game 1 of losses don't motivate me. I think that's kind of his shtick. I think it's kind of a tired shtick, to be honest, and it's going to turn people off to him. But I don't think he's clearly a competitive guy. I don't think that's actually it. I think something is up, and that's his way of kind of rationalizing it in his head or not wanting to say what it is. But I don't know. Whatever it is, Minnesota looks outstanding. They also are the perfect team with this new whistle. We talk about the new whistle. Knicks, Wolves, try hard, defense, crazy, maybe physical you up a little bit more than you're comfortable with. These are the teams that are winning right now. And I think that, that's not a nothing. I think there is something to that these really, these teams that have incredible conditioning and kind of just they lived in this kind of physical morass even before the whistle adjusted to them. I think they're playing really well. And I think today is the day you probably don't want to buy Minnesota futures. They've now, everyone's like, are they the favorite, right? It's like, this is the exact time you don't want to buy. Hopefully you tailed Joe, but otherwise hopefully you tailed us on series prices. We're looking good. We might not even have to approach it anyway beyond let's ride out these tickets for now. But Minnesota looked outstanding. Denver looked terrible. When you get a team that looks outstanding, a team that looks terrible in the postseason, and combine the two of them, you get a game like this.
Yeah, I think that's all very well said. I only will remove myself from us and that I only was late to the party on Timberwolves, and I took Wolves in 6, and I guess I didn't get there far enough. Like, I'm going to probably lose my bet anyways, even though I was on Timberwolves. I don't know if we're going to get to game 6. We'll get to that in a second. On Jokic, let me pull up some of the numbers here, because I agree. I think he has to be the story here. Like, you and I both are on Team Jokic as far as in the MVP race, giving him credit for the production, for the way he lifts the team, the way he makes everyone better. I still think all those things, but if you think all those things, then they also have to be true right now. And like, I'm not really, other than Murray, I'm not putting really any of the blame on the rest of the Nuggets cast. 0% of the blame from me. This is a team built around who is Jokic and what is he supposed to do for our team and how is he supposed to lift this offense and make everything work. He gets all the credit. I'm giving him all the credit when it's good. When it's bad, he gets the credit too. So 23% usage in this game. 23% usage is not enough most games. In a game when Rudy Gobert is out and you have Karl-Anthony Towns on you, a guy that has lived in foul trouble against Denver for his career, you got to go at him. You got to get at him, get him in foul trouble, get your offense, get the team going. You have to set the tone. Like, I do think it's interesting here. I think fans, especially fans of a certain age, my age, that grew up in the Michael Jordan era or the next generation that grew up in the Kobe era, you're going to gravitate to which guy in this series? Anthony Edwards, the killer, right? The guy that just goes and gets the bucket. That's what we've been ingrained. We've had decades of basketball tell us with results that that's what we're supposed to be going for. Naturally, Jokic is very much not like that and is going to rub some people the wrong way or just not quite resonate the same way. Like, I think it's charming a little bit at times, the whole like, oh, I won the championship. I'm just happy I get to go home and be with my horses now. Like, I think it's kind of nice to not be a psychopath and be like addicted to your job at every second of the turn. I think that's refreshing. I think we could all probably learn from that. But like, as fans, we don't really want that, right? If we're being honest, we kind of want the crazy over the top behavior. Jokic has had 3 straight games now. You count the last game in the closeout. He was pretty bad in that closeout game against the Lakers for his standards. Those 3 games, 56% true shooting. Again, not terrible, not Russell Westbrook's level of bad, but for Jokic, that's pretty bad. 7 turnovers, 7 and 4 in this game. 104 offensive rating. That's not good. 104 offensive rating with Jokic. He's like a 130 dude usually. Like, so that's not good enough with him. Hilariously, and I know Matt Moore would want me to bring this up at this time, he's still been at like 4, 4, and 6 BPM those 3 games because he still produces. He's still getting like near triple doubles. And it's I think Matt would like that to say, okay, well, that's because BPM is a flawed stat and Jokic is filling up the box score. I think Jokic's worst, which is what we're seeing right now, is still just that good, that it's still very valuable, that at least there's something out there. Either way, it is a lot on him. It has to be on him. I think it has to be on Jamal Murray too. Jamal Murray is clearly, I think, injured with the calf. He had the knee thing. He's got ongoing injuries. I don't know exactly what it is. Something is off with him. Jamal Murray has been awful. Like, Nikola Jokic has been bad for Jokic. Jamal Murray has been awful, period. He has been so bad. He is, for the series, 9 for 32 through 2 games, 31% effective field goal percentage. He's at 78 offensive rating. That is a negative 8.6 BPM. That is horrendous. And it's only 2 games, but it's the only 2 that matter right now. And it's also not only 2 games. For the playoffs now, he's at 38% from the field, minus 2.4 BPM. Like, we remember the 2 game-winning shots. guess what? If he didn't stink so much the first 40 minutes of the game, you don't have to make a game-winning shot at the end. Like, this is a team built around Jokic, but it's built around Jokic and Murray and their synergy together. And like you led with the Jokic of it all. I think it's the Jokic and Murray of it all. And that's, as just like a fan that enjoys the game, watching these two play together and their synergy, the perfect way they play off each other is so beautiful and so fun. Just as a lover of basketball, I think I'm worried that something is off there. Like, I worry that I worry not about an injury. I worry about a locker room thing. And that's just total speculation. We have no idea. I don't have any sources behind the scenes. It just feels to me like you're waiting for the Woj injury report. I'm waiting for the report about like Nikola Jokic wants so-and-so trade off of the team, or X player wants out, or ownership is ready to move on from whoever. Again, I don't know who that is. It feels like something is off here. And maybe the something is off is just the Timberwolves. Maybe the Timberwolves are just pushing you off the tracks. We just did this with the Suns last round. We buried them because they were so bad. Maybe the Timberwolves are just so good. Is it just the Timberwolves are that good?
Well, I will say, so I loved your framing of like, the portions of the pie, who gets the blame pie, if we're cutting it up, who gets slices and at what percent. So I do think that we had our two percentages here. You had Wolves at 35%. I wrote in 40. The more I think about it, I think I have it even higher. I do think we should really make sure to credit the Wolves here. But for the rest of the pie, I think it's like a pie. It needs to be like a 7-dimensional pie because it's got all these overlapping, causes for me. It's not as simple as, Jokic or Murray. It's like, it's trying to go back to back is very difficult. It's difficult on players because of the wear and tear. It's also difficult on front offices, not being able to bring back a Bruce Brown. So those kind of overlap. It's the disease of more. Maybe that's talking about, to your point of, maybe there is something in the locker room of, once you establish yourself as a winner, then it's like people start to want more. Aaron Gordon does not strike me as that type of guy, but Jamal Murray, again, we're speculating here, but I think these are all overlapping parts of a whole that are just, maybe the Nuggets aren't going back to back here. It certainly looks that way, right? But the only part of the pie that I want to focus on for a little bit more is, I really think it was, all season we were on, or before the season, we were on Nuggets season wins under, because it made no sense for them to chase wins during the regular season. At every turn, I was ready for them to put on the brake, coast down the stretch, and they know they can win in the postseason. There's no reason to chase regular season wins, but they did. They chased regular season wins, and I think it hurt them. Murray came into the postseason not 100% healthy, and Jokic, I don't know if it's healthy or if it's wear and tear, or whatever it is. I really think it was dumb that they chased wins down the stretch. At what cost? I mean, they have home court in the series, and they just lost the 2 home games. So clearly that did not hold the value that they thought it did. And I think it's really easy from an outside perspective to say, hey, take the foot off the gas, coast down the stretch. I think it's really hard for guys like Michael Malone, sorry, he's going to be annoyed at the mic, Michael Malone, to do that. But I think sometimes you have to have a bigger picture view of it. I mean, we saw the Warriors famously with their 73 wins, chasing it down the stretch may have cost them. Maybe it was Draymond in the finals too, but I just don't think with the regular season as is 82 games there, you should not be chasing wins if you can get stuff done in the postseason. I just think it's very silly. Maybe I'm a little bit angry because they cost me all of my, win total season bets, but I don't see the value in chasing those extra wins when it could potentially come at the cost of the postseason, which is what everyone actually cares about.
Yeah, I agree. I think I had more to say, but I think you basically said it. Like, I think I had an other on my blame pie. So I went Wolves 35%, Jokic 25%, Jamal 20%, coaching in front office 5%. I think that I don't know what answers they're really supposed to have here. I think the front office probably need to bring in a little bit more on the bench, but other 15%. You mentioned the other stuff I was talking about, like just the other of the chasing during the year, the other of just a long, grueling postseason run, physicality. And I think too, I do think that the whistle that is happening in the series, I don't think that it is uneven. I think it is even really to both teams. I just think it's unpredictable, and I think it is made for a series that very heavily favors the style that Minnesota is playing. And especially, like, you don't expect to get that whistle on your home court. If it's that in Denver, what's it going to look like in Minnesota? And look, is that making excuses? I don't know. Maybe it is making excuses. It's easy to just be like, well, you got to rise to, got to play accordingly. Okay, well, if the game is going to be officiated differently than was anticipated, then you can't just change who you are and change your identity. The Timberwolves are a certain thing, and it's working out better for them, just like it is with the Knicks right now. The Nuggets can't just be that thing suddenly. So I think it would be unfair to ignore that the officiating settings are making this a much more palatable series for the Timberwolves here, even though they still get credit for all the good things that they're doing for just insane defense. Like, so much fun watching them just hound dudes and not let up either. Like, they're just going after it. So it's 0-2 in the series for Denver. We gave Minnesota some flowers. Denver is the champs. They're the favorite from the West. Well, they were. So that's why I want to lead with this. So to kind of wrap up the section here, BetMGM, our sponsor, has the Denver Nuggets at plus 400 to win the series. So 20% implied. Timberwolves are minus 550, about 85% implied. Only one other champ has lost the first two games at home in a series. It's the 2011 Lakers. They got swept right out of the playoffs by the Dallas Mavericks. So that's not a great sign. Only 5 teams have ever gone down 0-2 at home and still come back to win the series. Are the Denver Nuggets dead? Neither you or I are going to put them at 0% because we're too mathematical to do that. So, Jim, what percent chance do you give Denver to come back here? And is there an angle that you can play?
I have it lower, to be honest. I'm closer to around 10%. And not to distill it down too much, but it obviously comes down to game 3, right? And they will have a nice little rest spot here. They get that extra day off for travel, but they haven't been a great road team. And so I make that game about 35% for them to win. And if you can't win that, it's over. So just to start, it's at 35%. Then you still have to win a couple games beyond that. I'm settling around 10%. I don't have it on the exact. I think the more interesting question though is, what to pivot off of it, what is the future to play right now? And Michael Fiddle, who's been on this podcast a lot lately, he mentioned in the Slack that it might be the time to buy Boston. I kind of agree with him. I do think that Boston matches up better with Minnesota than Denver, in part because, and we can talk about this maybe at another time, but I just think that a bigger wing, and even potentially like a Luka or a Tatum, those type of guys, Denver doesn't have quite the same weapons as a guard centric team. Like if we get Minnesota OKC, I'm gonna really like Minnesota because it's gonna be the same thing where Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are getting absolutely released onto Shea and J-Dub, and they're gonna make their lives hell. Whereas those guys, they're great defenders, but they're going to struggle a little bit more with someone with the size of a Luka or a Tatum. So I think Boston, I think we both think they roll through this series. The Knicks, they're playing great, but again, the Knicks, I don't think match up perfectly with Boston. I think Jalen Brunson going against that defensive backcourt in Boston is going to be tough. So, I at least have my questions. I think you're actually a little bit higher on Boston. I certainly have my questions on close game Boston, especially against a team like New York or Minnesota that is kind of, with this new whistle playing in, kind of the level they want. I have my questions there, but getting at minus 105 isn't terrible. So that's the only look I potentially would have. Again, Denver's not at 0, but I also don't think at plus 400 there's any reason to bet that number.
Yeah, my instinct here before I looked at the numbers available to us is my instinct is always going to be, all right, this is my chance to buy on Jokic and to buy on Denver. It's never going to, if you want Nuggets stock, it's now. You're never getting a better price than now. This is why you should not have bought in February or March or April. There was always going to be a moment where they were tested. If you want the stock, this is the time to do it. Unfortunately, I don't think that there's value still there now. I have Denver a little higher than you. I have them at 16% to win the series. I have them 40% or so for the next game, which is about what they're in the money line. So my 16% is actually pretty close to just in line with what the books are pricing here. I don't really see value either way. By your number, if it's 10%, there technically would be a little bit of value on Minnesota, but pretty heavy juice. I know that's really not a bet that you or I make too often. I'm having to reevaluate a little bit because so at BetMGM right now, the Timberwolves are now odds-on favorites to win the West. Timberwolves are minus 110 to come out of the West. The Nuggets are 7-1 underdogs. And then obviously we have not seen game one yet in the other series, but the Thunder are plus 300, Mavs plus 425. I'm having to reevaluate a little bit because I honestly, look, I'm supposed to be a Timberwolves fan. I haven't really considered a lot of scenarios where the Timberwolves are playing in the finals against the Celtics or the Knicks. I haven't really considered those matchups a lot. So I'm behind the eight ball a little bit. I'm not prepared to bet into these matchups that I didn't really think were quite coming here yet. So I don't have a future yet, but I do think this is a moment. It's a pivot moment. Either you need to decide, do I think Denver is going to come back? And even if they do, they're now coming back to win probably a 7-game series. And that's going to have, effects going forward. Attrition, the injuries are going to not go anywhere. Reggie Jackson possibly out for game 3, depending on how that ankle went. We don't really know Jamal Murray is going to play for sure. He threw a heat pad. He threw a towel onto the court. There's a chance there could be a suspension there. I hope not. We want to see guys play. But this stuff only gets harder for Denver. It's not like even if they right the ship and have a magical solution that I don't know exists, it doesn't look like they think it exists right now. That doesn't change the fact that they're going to get beat up for another week and a half just trying to make a series out of this. So I think game 1 made me be like, all right, the Timberwolves are here for the fight. Game 2 should make us as bettors completely rethink the landscape of what this futures looks like in the NBA, because I think until proven otherwise, we don't have to say the Nuggets are at 0%, but we pretty much have to count them out of where the actual title race is going. And maybe to transition, maybe that means a little bit more of an open door for the Knicks. I feel like the Knicks and the Timberwolves, certainly you'd want to get into a brawl if you're the Knicks. I feel like I'd rather play a team like that in that scenario. So, game 2, Pacers at Knicks at BetMGM, minus 5.5 for the Knicks, total at 220.5 right now. So, we mentioned our best bets at the top. Game 1, until the last 4 or 5 minutes, was awesome. It was so much fun. Pace is up. We're going back and forth. Each team going on some runs. Jalen Brunson hitting pull-up after pull-up after pull-up. Josh Hart just vacuuming in rebounds. Indy guys showing up. We got Obi Toppin returning to the Garden and going in game between the legs. Just no hesitation. We got Aaron Nesmith throwing down awesome game. And then the refs took over in the last 4 minutes. And look, you can't analyze the game without saying the refs did stuff at the end and totally impacted the outcome. I don't really think it's worth focusing on it. I'd rather focus on what stood out from game 1. We have to acknowledge the refs were part of it. What'd you see in game 1 of Knicks Pacers?
Yeah, it is a bummer because it was a good game up until that point, and it's funny when they called that moving screen at the end there. As the women's basketball fan I am, instantly flashed back to UConn versus Caitlin Clark, and the refs kind of being hop on my shoulder here. I'm not one to ever think that there's really conspiracy theories out there that the league's carrying certain teams. But if you are, last night was a pretty good, put that one in Exhibit A, because it definitely was a very friendly whistle to the Knicks. But I do think, there's something to be said. I made this comparison when it was Knicks Sixers in the first round. And it's actually, I think, a perfect example of what we were just talking about in Nuggets and Wolves, as well as anyone who's ever played pickup basketball knows that the people who always are going kind of they're just aggressive players, right? And sometimes what will happen is that type of aggressive player, they've done it for so long that they're pretty good at it. They can kind of be aggressive, but they know the exact, edges that they can go up to, and they'll annoy people. And the other people who aren't as aggressive, when they are being faced with that aggressive play, they lash out. We saw, Murray with the heat pad from the bench. We saw, I can't remember which player it was. Like it was like a full on tackle in the game last night, and that was happening in Sixers Knicks too. The Knicks were playing in this natural physical state, and the Sixers got frustrated and they would lash out. And oftentimes, it's like the sibling. The little sibling gets angry, hits the big sibling. The little sibling gets angry, gets in trouble because they were the one that lashed out in retaliation. It's like these teams that are naturally in this physical state, I think, are built so well for this. So I do think it's going to look like that they're getting a favorable whistle when really maybe they're just like the ones who are naturally a better fit for this new type of whistle. And to that point, the Knicks and Pacers, this was kind of always going to be a series set up to kind of have the conspiracy theorists out in full force, because the Pacers were the number one team by free throw attempts allowed for the regular season. So they are not good at playing, with that physicality that doesn't lead to whistles. Knicks draw the 14th most. They're about average, but they don't give up many free throws. They play so physical, but they don't give up free throws. And Indiana does not draw free throws. So if we look at point differential by free throws per game, Indiana was the worst in the NBA. The Knicks were the fifth best. So it was tracking to be kind of one of these series anyways. And then, I mean, that's definitely the story off of last night. It's frustrating that it is the story, but I don't think it's going anywhere either because of the way that these two teams play. What I think is interesting is it was such a big story, and the especially the kickball isn't something about your style of play. That's just a call, right? And it's such a big story. I was actually looking at angles for this game too, of what if the refs, we know that every now and then there's a little bit of a makeup call. They'll never admit, but we all see it play out every now and then. And we see makeup games a little bit. We saw it in Sixers Knicks, after that the one was stolen from Philly, the next one leaned a little bit Knicks, and then back and forth. I wouldn't be surprised if Indy gets a decent whistle in this game too, but I couldn't find anyone that I thought it would benefit. They just don't have guys that really attack the rim. Maybe you say Siakam, but really there's not an angle off of that for bettors, unfortunately, because I do think that could be a little bit of a thing. Maybe the play is Jalen Brunson on an under. He got to the line 14 times in game one. I don't know if he'll get there 14 times in game two, but if you're playing a Jalen Brunson under right now, you're a braver person than I am. So I honestly, I hate that the refs are the story, but I kind of think beyond just the funky whistle in the last couple minutes, I do think that that's going to be a storyline all series because of the style of play of these two teams.
Yeah, I agree. Jalen Brunson, 43 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Fourth straight playoff game with 40 points. And quite frankly, he had 39 the game before that. So we were a point away from 5 straight. He joined, they put the graphic on the screen. Here are the players with 4 straight playoff games in NBA history. Jerry West, Bernard King, Michael Jordan, Jalen Brunson. That's it. That's the whole list. And again, he should have 5. I think that only one of those guys has more than 4. Maybe he'll get another one. The line for his point total in this next game is 37.5. Like, what the heck? Jalen Brunson, second round pick Jalen Brunson, who could not miss down the stretch. Just pull up, jumper, swish every time. I really feel like the Pacers let one get away here. And maybe they would say the refs made it get away. Again, same with the physicality thing on the Timberwolves Nuggets. It sucks. I don't like that it went that way. The kickball thing, frankly, I thought on the previous one that got overturned, Indiana got possession. I thought they kicked the ball on that one, not on purpose. But I think there were bad calls both ways. I wish there weren't. But you still have to win the game. And I thought this was a game that the Pacers were set up to win. The Knicks turned it over 14 times. In my preview for the series, I talked about Knicks don't turn it over a lot. Brunson takes care of the ball. The Pacers aren't going to get the easy stuff that they're used to getting. Oops, they got it. I wrote about physicality and pace, and the Knicks will grind it and slow it down. Pace was 96. We're running. We're scoring points. We're alley-ooping and dunking. The Pacers played their style of game. The Knicks only had 2 offensive rebounds in the first half. That was another huge angle that pretty much everyone was on. They're going to crush on the glass. Mitchell Robinson, 12 minutes. He was terrible in this game. He looked very bad in this game. I won't say more on that because I suspect that's going to play into your angle on your best bet. But to me, I have to be careful with how I play game 2 because I picked Knicks in 5 or 6. The Knicks got game 1. I'm set up pretty well here. I don't feel great about it. I don't feel like my read on the series was super strong based on game 1. One of the biggest things, I talked about the bench advantage. TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin, and would that flip? Would it be a bench advantage for New York because their starters are still out there the whole time? And I didn't know if McConnell and Toppin were viable. Wholly viable. TJ McConnell was incredible. TJ McConnell was better straight up than Tyrese Halliburton in this game. Tyrese Halliburton was invisible, honestly. He had 6 points. He shot 2 of 6 from the field. He took 1 2-point attempt. Now, part of that, I think, is how they're defending him. But it's just not happening for him right now, and he can't create. And it's the injury clearly is limiting him some. It's the physicality and defense and the length they're putting on him. TJ McConnell, I think, is going to have to do stuff, and Nembhard, they're going to have to. It's part of that bet I have coming up. Indiana's bench, 46-3 bench advantage in game one. Like, look, we know the Knicks aren't playing a lot of bench dudes, but 46-3 is massive, especially on the road. You expect that sort of thing at home where your role players are supposed to play better. So I'm kind of torn here, Jim, on is this a sign for me as I look at the series now? Is this a sign that I've underestimated the Pacers a little bit? They are going to get some of those advantages. I've misread the series and I need to recalculate. Or I lean a little bit more toward this one. I was big on the idea that the Pelicans could hang with the Thunder. I like some of the advantages that they had. They came out. They kind of surprised the Thunder, I thought, in game one. They almost had it. They had a chance to steal game one. And I think they had to, because then they didn't. And then things kind of shifted out after that. And I'm worried that the Knicks will have I thought the Pacers would need to adjust to Knicks' physicality. It turned out the Knicks maybe needed to adjust to the speed that the Pacers were playing with. But I think they did in the second half. And they kind of got into more of a flow and more of their way of things. I still feel pretty good for New York, but I'm being careful on how I play the series and game two just because some of those reads were off. Where are you at on how you see the series? And then you can go into your best bet from there.
For sure. And yeah, I was talking about how the refs are going to play a role because this is the style of play and this isn't going away. Same thing with the bench. The way the Knicks bench is set up right now, all Matt Moore, Deuce McBride jokes aside, like there's not all that much coming from the Knicks bench right now. It really is starters, Hart, get your 48 in, Brunson 44. We're not relying much on that bench. I think it might only skew even more that way, which I'll get to in a little bit when we talk about the Knicks center spot. But the Indiana is going to absolutely run their bench. And because it's such a fast pace, run up and down the court unit, that against a Knicks starting side that is able to play 44 minutes a pop, but there's just no way they don't have a little bit of tired legs. Philly did not take advantage of that nearly enough, I don't think. I think Indiana is going to take advantage of it a little bit better. That being said, I think you really would have been in trouble if Indy had stolen this game. And honestly, I don't even know if it would have been stolen. I think Indiana was the better team in game one. I very much do think that you got to win the game in the end, but I think the refs really did put a skew on this game one. However, I very much agree with you as well that I think that was the game they had to get. I do think that the Knicks kind of figured things out a little bit in the second half. I come around on basically, I didn't have a play on this series beforehand. I wasn't looking at like Knicks minus anything on a series spread. I thought it was pretty evenly priced. If anything, in like a no vig market, I actually might have skewed a tiny bit towards the Pacers at the number that they were at. However, now with that game one in the books, unfortunate as it is for Pacers bettors, shouts Maria Marino. We were giving you guff, but that was honestly, you had a good read on it there. Yeah. I think both sides should kind of sit things out for game two. Let's see some player prop stuff. Let's see how repeatable the bench unit is for Indiana. If they come out and the gap is that big again, of course the series price is going to adjust at that point, but I think there's value to seeing that and how repeatable it is. Let's see the ref stuff. Let's see if, the narrative builds around the ref stuff, because that maybe even, skews things a little bit more. But I really do think that this market is relatively well priced at this point. I think Indy Pacers should be Indy bettors should be a little bit bummed, but I'm going to be looking to player stuff because sides and totals to me at this point, I'm not seeing a whole lot. And game one told us some things, but it also brought up a lot of question marks on what's repeatable and what was a little bit of noise in that first game.
Yeah, I agree. It's a reminder to me that we don't have to play every game, every angle. I know we want to. I know we're team content here. I know we want sides and totals, and like I'm team volume as far as betting. Not quite Joe Delara level of volume,
No one
but
is.
yeah, I'm not on a spread here. I'm not on a total here. I think it's a game, especially for me. Game two is one either to say, okay, I saw what I wanted in game one. Let me really go after it, or that wasn't quite what I expected. Let's be a little careful here. Let's play the long game. So that said, you and I are both on props for this one. My prop I'll start with this because it's very straightforward. Josh Hart gets rebounds, and I think he's going to get a lot of rebounds here. Uh, he had 20 rebound opportunities in game one. No Pacer had more than 10, except Isaiah Jackson, actually, in his 13 minutes. He had 11 potentials in his 13 minutes. Everyone else was single digits. The only other guy that I think is even really a threat here is maybe OG Anunoby. He had 9 rebounds out of 15 possibilities. Hart just is going after it, and he's playing nearly every minute. He's getting the rebounds. It's minus 135. It's just one of the few things I feel very certain about is Hart is going to get his 10, 12, 15 rebounds and be in the mix and get his chances for that. You're on a rebounding prop here as well. You're on Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah, let me first just say that I was all, we talk about again wanting to have stuff. I was kind of impressed slash annoyed going through this game when I was looking for a bet because I thought that the books were really sharp on some of the player props. I wanted to look at Halliburton points under. They moved that down a couple. We talked about how he is it. I think there's a health thing going on there. Maybe it's a first postseason thing. Maybe it's a matchup thing. Maybe it's his style is better in the regular season thing. I think it's too soon to say on any of those fronts, to be honest. But regardless of what it is, he clearly doesn't look himself. So I was eyeing that, but I couldn't quite get there. OG Anunoby, you mentioned on the rebounding front. I was eyeing a PRA from him. He got lots of really open looks in game one. Again, they kind of bumped it up to the point where I was like, yeah, I'm going to sit that one out. Mitchell Robinson rebounds under. I was like, okay, this is. I don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes this series. He doesn't look like he can keep up with the Pacers bigs who like to stretch things out and really run. They sniffed that out. They dropped that by I think like 3 rebounds, but they didn't move the inverse of that enough. I don't think, which was Isaiah Hartenstein 8.5 rebounds. It's a little bit juiced. But if you shop around, you can get a pretty good number out there for it. And I really think it's the other half of that Mitchell Robinson coin. He only had 6 rebounds in game one, but he had more potentials. And again, it's a 1 game sample. Overall, he's the Knicks center, as crazy as Josh Hart is. And I do think there's one other lean I'm going to give in a minute that ties this. I think the Knicks actually really do want Hart to get rebounds so he can get out and push. I still think that Hartenstein, his rebounding number here is a little bit low. So I'm going to go with this as a best bet in terms of I think he's going to get a lot of minutes. I think he's going to get a lot of rebound chances here in game two. But I really, the other play that you could almost, in a way, it almost inversely correlates. So maybe you play both and hope that one of the two hits here is Josh Hart over on turnovers. Now he's only hit, so the number is 2.5. He's only hit that number twice in the playoffs so far. But to me, watching game one, it was very clear that the Knicks wanted Hart to get the board and sprint down the floor as fast as he could. And that was one of their offensive, like quote unquote, sets. Because their half court offense is not all that good, to be honest. I think they love the idea of Hart getting the board, pushing it himself, either taking it to the rack or, cutting in and kicking out to DiVincenzo or someone else for 3. That was a very common trend, was Hart flying down the court. Now, Hart is amazing. Never going to get me to say a bad word about Hart, but he is not a point guard. As he flies down the court, he's not quite as in control as a typical lead guard. And we saw that he had 5 turnovers in game one. So at this 2.5 number, he has only cleared it, like I said, 2 of these postseason games. But I saw enough in the game one kind of script, if you will, or like the style of play that Tibbs wanted from the Knicks in game one, that I make that a lean as well. And then just the final one I'll say is a lean. I'm a stubborn SOB. DiVincenzo 3s under. I played for game one. He went 5 for 9. He got a lot of good looks. I'm going to run it back one more time. I'm going to bump it up to 3.5. I'm going to drink the juice. If he beats me again, he beats me again. The Pacers, they again though, they cut off 3s pretty well from the Knicks. He just got a couple of good looks, in part because of the Hart transition. So again, maybe I should learn from it and learned that because they're playing so fast and they're like, DiVincenzo, if you get a look in transition at all, you should fire it up. He had a great game one. I'm going to go back to the well one more time, but as a lean, not as a best bet. So there's a lot of player prop angles in there for you. Hopefully a few of them spark something with you, and you can run with a few of them.
Yeah, I got to fade you on Dante here because I actually was very close to making his over my best bet. I looked at his over points and his over threes. He's a guy I was high on coming to the series. He scored in the regular season against Indiana 38 in one game, 20 and 14 the other games. He averaged 12 3-point attempts a game against them. So to get up 9 is actually below the average here. 5 of 9 is obviously a nice shooting percentage, but he looks aggressive. He looks good. This going to be a good series for him. I'm just going to skip him because when I saw your play, I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to not make this my best bet now if we're on opposite on this one. I didn't feel that confident on it. Hart, it's interesting. It almost feels like what you described is Russell Westbrookian. Yeah. I don't know if that is a compliment or slander at this point, but the way they're getting out. My Halliburton kind of same game parlay, the plus 600 bet. Halliburton points under 17.5. TJ McConnell over 10.5. And Nembhard over 11.5. I think they're all correlated because of the way that the Knicks are defending. I don't even really think that I don't like it totally, to be honest, but they're defending to get the ball out of Hallie's hands and say, okay, who else on this team can do stuff against us? TJ McConnell is up for it. TJ McConnell is driving to the basket. He scored 18 and he did that on all twos. Like he only even took 1-3 and he missed it. He's getting to the rim, into the teeth of the Knicks defense and finishing there. So I especially like that part of it. Nembhard's a little tougher, but he has scored 11 in 6 straight games. So this is a line that I've kind of had my eye on even in the first round, and it's slowly bumping up. But, put all 3 of them together. It's an angle that if Halliburton's not scoring and able to impact the game as much, somebody else is going to have to. So I think it's a strongly correlated thing here, and it's like a half unit play for me. And I look, it's a plus 600. So having said that, since it is 45 minutes into our episode and they're going to kill us if we do this for too long, it is our 600th episode, Jim. I came up with 3 600 themed trivias here for you. Trivia, I think, is plural. Sorry. And then one for you, the audience at home. So here's how we're going to do this. I will ask the question. Now, Jim, I gave you the questions beforehand. There's like listing answers. So they're going to be tough to just come up with on the spot. If you're listening at home, just pause the episode when you hear the question, jot down your answers if you want to play along. So we'll play that way. Then the last one, you can send us your answers. So question number 1, these are all 600 themes for 600 buckets. 8 players this season attempted at least 600 3-pointers. Jim Turvey, name those 8 players.
All right, time to see how well I did. Okay, so I led with Steph. Should I go one at a time and you say yes or no, or should I just rattle off?
Yeah, let's do it that way, one at a time.
Okay, Steph.
Steph is yes, 876. He led.
Excellent. Luka
is right.
Clay.
Correct.
Dame.
Correct.
Tatum.
No.
Okay. Strus.
No on Strus.
He was my sleeper because he was so healthy this year. Maxey
is a no as well.
Oh man, I'm fading down the stretch. Anthony Edwards.
Ant is a no as well.
So 4 for 4 and then 0 for 4. Well, I got the big 4, I guess.
You got the big 4. Now you missed a guy that we just talked about. Your man, Dante DiVincenzo.
So I thought about him because he had some games. He was 3rd in league. That's insane because he did have that stretch where he was just putting up like 20 a game. But I thought because he was barely in the rotation to start the year. So that's amazing. That just shows how much he was getting him off when he was really playing.
I think he finished 3rd in makes also. It's Steph, Luka, and Dante DiVincenzo were your 3-point leaders in attempts and makes. And then you got Clay after that. You got Dame, who was 6th. Bogdanovic is on the list. Jason Tatum, just the volume there. And then just barely in at 600 threes. I'm not sure they want this from him. Jalen Green, 600 3-point attempts.
I don't think they do. Wait, so I did get Tatum. So I got 5 of 8.
You did. You're right. Tatum is correct. You got 5 of 8. That's my fault. Sorry about that.
That's to make sure I'm over 50% to be semi-passing.
There we go. Yeah, these are tough. You're playing at home. I'm not sure what the right answer is for these. Like 600 is not exactly a milestone number in NBA. Okay, question number 2. 9 active NBA players have, at least for their career, 600 blocks, 600 steals, and 600 3-pointers. Name those 9 players. 600 blocks, 600 steals, 600 threes made on this one. What do you got?
All right. LeBron.
Correct, obviously.
KD.
Yes.
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul is a no. I'm going to guess that he's not on there for blocks.
The blocks, yeah. Al Horford.
Horford is correct.
Brook Lopez.
Brooke is a no. I don't know if he has enough threes at this point. He was a little late in the career.
Yeah, that's true. Jimmy Butler.
No on Butler.
DeRozan.
No.
Oh, Kawhi.
This one's tough. Not Kawhi.
This is way worse. Paul George.
Not Paul George. You do have. Wow. Yeah, give me your 3 more names because it's going to get better for you.
Okay, I did have backups. I said Draymond.
Draymond is correct.
Tobias Harris.
No, Tobias is 0 at everything. Tobias is not correct. Tobias
and James Harden
in his career. James Harden is correct.
Okay.
James Harden, I think, is like just over on blocks. So here's the list: LeBron, Durant, you got Harden, Horford, Nikola Vucevic.
Wow.
Can't say I would have ever thought of him for this question. Draymond Green, and then Nicola Batum made it onto the list.
Wow.
He's active for now. He hasn't retired yet. And then an answer that's probably a little bit cheating. I think he only played 2 games this year. But one of my favorite role players of all time, he was on with Sean Little last week on television. Our guy, Danny Green. Danny Green made the list. Still that's technically amazing. An active player for right now.
I'm amazed he has 600 blocks. I guess he's got that. He was guarding guards a lot. Yeah.
Guy. He got some of those chase downs.
Yeah.
All right. This was my favorite of these 3. And you said you like this one too. Yeah. So 26 players in NBA history have scored at least 600 points in a single postseason. I had no idea that 600 mattered here. Apparently it did. Nikola Jokic last year, exactly 600 points. Now, 26 guys have done it. Only 10 have done it without also winning the championship that year. Obviously, Jokic is not one of them. He won the championship. So, who are those 10 players? And as a hint to you at home, all but 2 of them were this century, probably in part because we're just playing more playoff games now, right? So we're looking for players who scored 600 in a single postseason, but did not win the championship that year. All right, what do you got?
All right, I'll start with the obvious one. Your gloat, my goat, LeBron James.
Correct. LeBron did it twice, in fact, 2015 and 2018.
Okay. Then I went to the this century ones. I guess Jerry West.
It's not Jerry West. I'm going to guess that they just didn't have enough rounds and games. Otherwise, I'm certain he would have made the list.
My other guess was Clyde Drexler.
Okay, I wondered which Clyde that was, if that was a Clyde Frazier or a Clyde Drexler, but it is neither of the Clydes are correct.
Who were the two pre-2000?
The 2 from before. You also had a Bernard King and a Wilt as possibilities on here, Karl Malone. The 2 were Charles Barkley in 1993 and then Larry Bird in 1987.
I was really close on Bird. I was close on Lakers and Celtics in the 80s. I should have gone with Bird. Okay, now I'll move back to this century. I'm going to say Allen Iverson.
Iverson is correct, 2001, the step over year.
Dwight Howard?
Dwight's not right. I don't think he scored enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dwayne Wade? Probably LeBron was taking the points.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade did hit a 600, but only in the year when he won the championship.
I'll say Dirk.
Dirk from that year is the correct answer.
Yep. Kobe.
Kobe is correct, 2008. He actually did 600 all 3 of those years, 2008, 2009, 2010, but won the title 2 of them.
Steph.
Steph is correct, 2019 when the Raptors won.
And KD.
KD is not on the list.
Okay, so I did better on the this century ones.
You did well. Here are the guys that you missed. So I'll start with the furthest back. We did Bird, Charles Barkley, Iverson. You got Dirk, Kobe, LeBron, Steph. You got, and then there's been 2 in the last few years that you missed. Devin Booker, 2021.
My Devin Booker. How did I miss my Devin Booker?
I know. And Jason Tatum, 2022, also made onto the list. They played a lot of games that year, so he made on that way. All right, those are our 600 trivia. Here's yours at home. It's your turn. You need to send to @WheatonBrando or @TurveyBets. We will post the podcast and post this there. I'm not going to post the question. You got to listen to the episode. You got to be 54 minutes into listening to know what the question is. Here's the trivia. No cheating, okay? No cheating. I know you can Google. I know you know how to use the internet. No StatMuse, no basketball reference. Give us your real answers. First person to get all 9 right wins, or whoever gets the most the fastest. Last 600 trivia. 9 active players have at least 600 career regular season wins. 9 guys with at least 600 regular season wins. I'm pretty sure you know the first one on the list. It's been on a couple of ours already, so you're off to a good start with 1. That is your trivia. You need to give me as many guys. You can only guess 9. You can't guess more than 9, so we'll give you credit for as many out of the 9 as you get. And then before we get you out of here, since it's our 600th episode, I gave you a plus 600 bet earlier, but I'm going to give you one more. This is like that was a half unit. This is like a $1. This is like a tenth of unit sort of bet. Here's my script for game 2. This is a 600th spectacular special. It's a Knicks script. Jalen Brunson goes under the points, under on his 3. So under 37.5, under 2.5 threes, but he gets the rebounds, 6 rebounds. Josh Hart, it's a Josh Hart game. He hits 3 threes. He hits a triple-double. The Knicks win the game. They cover the 5. Give me all those things together. And guess what? It is a 600-1 bet. 600th episode, baby. Let's go. 600-1. So again, if you want to follow, Josh Hart triple-double plus 3 3-pointers. Jalen Brunson under on the points, under on the threes. 6+ rebounds and a Knicks cover. It's a ludicrous bet. Let's have some fun with it and see if we can come through for the Knicks here. That is going to wrap it up for our 600th episode. That is going to wrap it up for today's buckets. Jim, your best bet was Isaiah Hartenstein, 8.5 under on the rebounds, under 8.5 on the rebounds. I'm tired of talking.
Under half. Over 8.5.
Over 8.5. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. Your best bet is Isaiah Hartenstein over 8.5 on the rebounds. Mine is Josh Hart to lead the series in rebounds. Lead the game in rebounds. Lead the series too, though. That's definitely going to happen. And then we got a lot of other bets in there. I had the plus 600 and the little bonus 600-1 at the end there. Let's have a little fun. Thank you again to our listeners for 600 episodes. Here's to the next 600. Thank you to David Payne, our producer, for listening to 600 minutes on this episode. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time. Let's get buckets.